Hey, I'm Deidre Detterman, host of the Do It My Way podcast, where we empower women business owners and CEOs to do business on their terms with no regrets, hesitation, or fear. I'm obsessed with all things marketing. I started my career in television, and I remember sitting in countless meetings, listening to executives talk about things that needed to change, but they never did. I was always thinking, what if we did it my way? Once I became an entrepreneur and I started living life on my terms, working the hours I want to work, making the money I want to make, I started to feel success. I was finally in control of my destiny. I hope you will join me on this journey discovering how you can do it your way. We're here at OSU today, my alma mater, and I am so excited to interview Dr. Kayse Shrum. It's been on my bucket list, and now we're doing it today. She is the first woman president of OSU, and she inspires me. I know she's going to inspire you. Hi, thank you so much for being here today. I can't tell you how excited I am to interview you. I've actually was telling my team when we first launched the podcast, I said, I'm going to interview Dr. Shrum. That's going to be on my bucket list.
Thank you for having me.
Here we are today. And thank you for letting us come in. We've got all our equipment and we just took over your office. And anyway, we just really appreciate your time.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here with you today.
Okay, I want to just dive right in.
Okay.
So when we walked in the door, I saw the Cowboy Code written on the wall, which is so amazing. Mm-hmm. What is the Cowboy Code and what does it stand for?
Yeah. Well, I feel like it really describes the culture of Oklahoma State University and the characteristics of, what we strive to be here. So, it's about being humble, but dreaming big and not being afraid to get outside of your comfort zone. It's work hard, know that challenges are going to be hard, but you're going to see your way through them if you continue to persist. It's about, treating everyone with dignity. And, it really does. It's, part of it, one of them that I think sums it all up is being a cowboy isn't in our clothes, it's in our character. Mm-hmm. And the Cowboy Code really describes the character in which we all aspire to live up to.
That is really cool out there. We're going to have to get a little video of that. So that's awesome. Yeah. And then tell me about land grant plan, because I know OSU being a land grant institution. Mm-hmm. Explain what that means.
Right. I know a lot of people are like, what is land grant? We're a research university, but what distinguishes a land grant university from another research university is the extension piece. And that really is our focus on solving society's, greatest challenges and being accountable to our state and the world around us. It's not just about finding the knowledge, but it's really connecting the knowledge that we have and giving it to people out in society that are utilizing it. If you kind of go back in history and think about agriculture and extension was created because agriculture was our main economic driver. And the university had a lot of cutting edge technology, and they would, go out and give that knowledge through extension to the farmers, but also get feedback about what are the real challenges facing society. So I think really applied research and where, the needs of society intersect with OSU's real strengths. And so that in the land grant mission, is created to expand an education to a new generation, a new class that, previously didn't have access to an education. And that was, back during Lincoln's time. Right. So many, many years of history with land grant. And so, I love the land grant mission because it is about access. Mm-hmm. We really focus on getting first generation college students and providing them the support to be successful. It's, research that impacts society and it's service and how we serve the state as an economic, driver. And it's about making the world a better place. And so our strategy is to be the preeminent land grant university. We are land grant because I think that, even though it's historical and goes back to Lincoln, it still is compelling today. Really reaching out, making sure it's accessible, affordable. Those are things that we're focused on in that strategy, is making an OSU education affordable. And, again, solving society's grand challenges and, being a part of, solutions and really working with Oklahomans in the world to understand what problems do we need to solve.
I love the accessibility part. What do you say to the small town girl that's like, you know what, I don't know if college is for me. Yeah. It's too big, it's overwhelming. What do you say to her? What advice do you have?
Well, I think I would start with, why do you feel that way? Because, I started out at that point where it seemed scary. It seemed too big. I wasn't sure that I belonged. And I think I would start out with, why, and encourage her to go visit and give it a try and, get outside your comfort zone. Because I think a lot of times we're stuck in our comfort zone, but growth happens when you step outside of that comfort zone. And so just encouraging them. I tell students, if your dreams don't scare you just a little bit to say out loud, then you're probably not dreaming, big enough.
So tell me, growing up, what did you want to be?
Okay, so, I always go back to, because I always tell this story on myself, because my sister always says she's going to tell everyone, but for the longest time growing up, I wanted to be a horse jockey.
You're kidding.
Obviously, I'm too tall for that.
How funny.
And my sister would always tell me, you will not, and I'm never going to let you forget this. So I always say that was my first career choice. But after that, like when I was old enough to really decide what, I start thinking about what I wanted to do. I played softball my whole life. And so I wasn't real sure what I wanted to do. My big goal was to go to school to, continue to play softball. And so my thought was, maybe I'll coach. And so medicine really wasn't on my mind when I first went off to school. And I had a professor who really, asked me if I was going to go to medical school. And that really kind of inspired me to start thinking about that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, being the first woman president of OSU, I know you're paving the way for so many women. And I thank you for that because, as a woman, that is very inspiring. So did you have a woman that you looked up to growing up that maybe was a role model, or did you see women in leadership positions?
I mean, most of my female role models really came from, people who played sports and, Olympic softball pitchers or people like that I looked up to, and really in a career, not so much. I think, as I kind of medicine at that time, when I was going into medical school, not as many women in the medical profession. Today, that's a lot different. But, there are always women who kind of go before you that maybe you don't know, you don't ever get the opportunity to meet. I did have an opportunity, once I became the dean of the medical school, to meet a former regent, Isabel Baker, and she was really encouraged the medical school to hire more female faculty, and so that women would have role models. And as a part of that hiring process, I was hired. And I was one of the first female faculty members hired in that effort. So that was kind of a neat opportunity, and I think a really important reminder that even though you may not have someone that you see as a role model, there are typically people that have always come before you.
That's great. Okay, so think of little girls out there looking at you being the president. How important is that for a little girl to see you in a leadership position?
I think it's more important. I feel like I see that as more important today than I did. I probably didn't have an appreciation for how important that was when I was, growing up or, thinking about a career. As I look back, I know how important it is. And I think it just, when you see people doing things, you can imagine yourself doing it. It also really gives you a roadmap sometimes, and somebody to really talk to. I talk to a lot of female students, even male students, but a lot of female students. And even when I was at the medical school, a lot of times had a lot of conversations with students about, how'd you have family and do what you do, and all those just logistical things that I think it's really beneficial for young females to see that.
Absolutely. And I've seen you even take off your orange shoes and give it to
Yes.
a student. That's one of the Instagram, famous things that you've done. But even just doing that, you know how it is on graduation day, and she loved your shoes, and so you just took them right off and gave them to her, which is so incredible. So I did read where someone said to you, there's no way to be successful at being a mom and, having a career as a doctor, and you did both. So raising 6 kids, how did you become a pediatrician, become the president of OSU, doing all the things that you've done? How did you balance work and family life when your kids were younger?
Well, I think when I was told that, it really made me more determined to do both and not to have to make a choice between career and family. And so, that was really a decision for me when I chose to go into medicine. And so it's always been a challenge. It does require you to be thoughtful and
planner.
Have a plan. Yes. And, my husband always laughs because he said, we had to plan when we had our children based on when I could have vacation.
Right.
But I'm thankful that all worked out very well for me. But I always had a really good support system. And so, when I talk about, did I have a mentor who, I looked up to as a leader or in a career? Not necessarily, but, my mother, she was a stay-at-home mom, but she always encouraged both my sister and I, and my dad as well, to pursue whatever we wanted to pursue. That, there isn't a right or a wrong way to either, stay at home or, have a family, don't have a family.
So true.
Just follow your path. And so I would say, my mom and her choices about, how she lives her life, and, she was never fearful to do anything. I think that, really helped me. And it also, because of that, I had a really good support system. And, my husband, my mom, having kids while you're in medical school and in residency and, working.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And so.
And 6 kids, not just a couple.
Yes. And so, I think it does require you to really have a plan for that. And I think at times, I've never felt like I sacrificed one for the other. There have probably been periods of my life where I've sacrificed myself in order to do both, because, I would never let something fall off the table for my career or my children and my family. So I think that's the bigger thing about learning over time, how to take care of yourself in order to be able to do all the things that you want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And health is something that I wanted to ask you about, because I know health is really important to you. It's really important to me. So what do you do to live in optimal health every day?
Yeah. Well, I have a exercise goal for cardio. Every week I try to do 150 minutes of cardio and then lift weights 3 times a week. And I, several years ago, went to see a doctor, a functional medicine doctor, and she works with me a lot on my diet. And I see her, 3 times a year. She does blood work to make sure that, I'm eating the way it's a it's every day. It's, again, I have to be very thoughtful. And then I think about, supplements that I take if things are, not something I eat naturally in my diet, to try to take supplements every day. So I really do try to focus as much as I can on prevention. And then, there's always that, that's health, but, the whole well-being thing, and how do you kind of find a balance to be able to realize when you need a break And so that's the bigger challenge.
Yeah, well, you have the busiest schedule, you know, out there. So for you to make that a priority, you have to schedule it. You know, I think you have to put it on your calendar just like you would put an important meeting.
Yes.
You're going to work out. You know, you're going to either meal prep or get your healthy meals, because you might be running from here to a baseball game to, you know, something else that night. And if all that is there is a hot dog, that's what you're going to eat.
Yes.
You know,
and that, you know, my husband jokes because I have this big purse and it usually has an extra pair of shoes. It has cashews. It has, you know, planning for the entire day. But you're right. I mean, one thing that I share with people is, you know, your calendar is important. And especially the busier you get, we tend to, you know, only put work things on our calendar. Well, I've really said I'm going to put personal, you know, things on there, like you said, working out, these, you know, those kind of things. And that way you're really planning for the week. And every so often I try to look at my calendar to see if my time is lining up with the way I want to prioritize, you know, my time. And I think inevitably you'll run across things where you have a conflict. And I think I always feel more obligated to say yes to work. But as the longer I've been in this role and in a leadership role, I kind of give myself permission by just asking the question in 10 years or 5 years from now, who's going to remember more where I was or where I wasn't? And more times than not, that's, you know, my family.
You're exactly right.
So, but that's just a good, you know, check-in way for me to make sure that I'm managing in a way that I'm not going to look back and regret.
But even being healthy, I mean, I think it spills over into your career. I mean, how do you think it's affected you being the president, that you are in optimal health?
Yeah, it is. I mean, my schedule is pretty busy. And, you know, being in good health is important, and, you know, having the stamina to do that. And being around college kids, they have a lot more energy.
That's right. Well, you got your running. You got to
do have my tennis shoes on
She's got
today.
her tennis shoes because you're all over campus.
I am, and so I think that's really important. You know, it's something that you can kind of not think about until you have a health crisis. But I've really tried to be aware of that, and I think it kind of goes to the busier you are, the more disciplined you need to be. And so, you know, being disciplined in your personal life and in your work life, that all kind of, you know, goes together.
It does. And you're setting such a great example, even just thinking of those little girls looking up to you. Also from that front. You know, how you're living your life, because you do have eyes all on you.
Oh, yeah.
More than you want.
I think that, you know, right after I got this job, I've always had a lot of interactions with, you know, a lot of the female medical students and those kind of things. But I had met a little girl, I think at a cattle show or something, and her mother is a friend of my sister's, and she said her mom heard her in the bedroom talking. She was playing, and she kind of opened the door and asked her what she was doing, and she said, "Oh, I'm pretending to be Dr. Shrum. Can you put my hair in a bun?"
Oh, that's so cute.
This little girl would wear her hair in a bun like every day, and she's like 8 years old, and I think that was when it really did hit me that just those like brief moments and trying to be aware of who's around you.
And who's watching.
Because, you know, I think in our jobs, a lot of times we're thinking about the next thing we have to do or the important person. And you're talking about the incident with the girl that I let her borrow my shoes. I was headed to an event for our donors, and you know, she was there, and I wanted her to be able to take pictures with orange heels on. And I think it kind of stressed everybody out. But, you know, that's why we're really here. Those students and the little girl, and, you know, those are the people that, you know, you can overlook when you're busy, but you have a greater impact on.
You're making me tear up because that's OSU to me. You know, and it really is. When I think about, you know, some of my favorite times in my life, it was here in Stillwater. I met my husband here, all my sorority sisters that, I mean, I'm 51. So we're talking a long time ago. You know, we all still are so close and all of that. And, you know, OSU has such a special place in my heart. But what would you say is that kind of that one thing that makes OSU so special?
Yeah, I think that it's about a sense of community. And I think there are a lot of universities that, and OSU included, have great academics. But when you come to Stillwater, you're not just one of many. And it's not about the university, it's about the students. And I think that's what makes it unique. I mean, when you hear people talk, they talk about the OSU family. And whether you're on this campus or you're on one of the other 4 campuses, you get that same feeling of being a part of something bigger than yourself, but not being lost to that something bigger. It's a place where you can find your way and you can become who you're intended to be, and you're not swallowed by the crowd.
Yeah, that's so true.
And, you know, all 6 of my kids have gone to school here, and, you know, they're diverse backgrounds, diverse interests, and they've all found their place and their people here.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love about it, is you can find your place and the people to support you here at Oklahoma State.
Which is so great. Well, I know you played softball in college, and, you know, being a college athlete, that's a ton of discipline, right? You're not sleeping in, you're not, you know, partying on the weekends and all that. I mean, you have a strict schedule. So what do you think, being a college athlete, how do you take in some of those roles that you did into your life today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I say a lot of, you know, what I learned as an athlete, I utilize today, and that's, you know, self-discipline, being prepared, being a good team member, you know, thinking about others instead of yourself. I mean, that whole concept of we're better together than we are on our own. That's something that I think comes into play every day, realizing that, you know, everybody has a good day or a bad day, myself included. That's when you're relying on your team, you know, to make sure that things are, you know, going well. And so I think it's really just been that being a part of a team and putting, you know, every day you show up, you want to do your best, but you also need to think about what's best for the team. And I think that I've taken those, you know, principles, that you're accountable to the people around you. You know, you're only as strong as they are, and they're only as strong as you are. And so that commitment to being your best every day, but the grace to realize that others aren't always going to be, and you aren't either.
Right.
Those are important lessons.
You know, I read that you're really close with your teammates still. So you kind of have your group of girls, your tribe, you know, that builds you up and, you know, also keeps you grounded. I mean, I think it's both of those. So how important is it to have, for women to lift up other women and to have that in your life?
Yeah, I think it's really important. And I love, you know, that group of girls that are still, you know, my best friends. We get together multiple times a year and group text.
Is everyone all over? Do they live everywhere?
Yeah, mostly in Oklahoma, some in Texas now. Yeah. But we've just made that commitment to continuing our friendship. And I think it's really important to encourage and be there to listen and be happy when other people succeed, and have, you know, other women be happy when you genuinely happy when you succeed, and genuine in wanting to help you when you're not.
Right.
And just those, I always laugh, you know, some of them I met, you know, when I was playing softball in high school. So from the time I was 16, a few of them, I played with them for that long. And, you know, they just remember, you know, You're just
me. Kayse.
Yes,
you're
Kayse
not Dr. Shrum
That's
over there.
Right. Just a teammate and all the goofy things you do when you're, you know, a 16-year-old. So,
well, I bet you've made them so proud. They probably look and say, look what she did.
Yeah.
It's so great.
And, you know, sometimes, you know, they're just kind of, I think you can't take it all in, really.
Right.
But they're a great support group, and I think it's really important to have those people. And, you know, you hear that all the time. You're fortunate if you have just a few really, really close people in your life. And I'm very fortunate to have, you know, those real relationships where, you know, there's no pretense, and you can just share really what's going on with you, and they genuinely care and want to celebrate with you or want to be there for you when things aren't going great.
Are they OSU fans? Or?
Oh, of course. Everybody around me is all sold out in
Everybody
orange.
wears orange when you show up.
They do. And so,
that's funny.
Yeah, they've all, if they weren't, they have converted.
They
have converted.
I love that.
Yeah, and I have a friend of mine, and her kids go to Texas A&M, and, we played them.
Right.
And so, she was like, I'm not going to go, to the game because I would wear orange, So
that's great.
But yeah, they've all pretty much converted.
How fun.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say your greatest accomplishment at OSU has been so far?
I don't know that there's one particular thing that I would say is my greatest accomplishment. I think what I hope that someday I'm remembered for is just the investment that I've made in students and connecting them and making sure that other people succeed. And I think that is what I would, be most proud of. From my time just over my career here at OSU, I've been at OSU since 2002. And I, look back on that, some of those things, the new VA hospital that's coming downtown, the Cherokee Nation Medical School that we partnered with, those are all big accomplishments, but I'm more proud of how those things are going to serve people and continue to, make lives better here in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's why you're in the position you're in. That's so good. Okay, we have to talk fashion.
Okay.
Because all my friends are like, are you going to ask her where she gets all her orange?
Yeah.
America's Brightest Orange, it's hard to find. And I know the crew was asking a minute ago, and they're like, well, is that like OSU orange? And I'm like, yes. We can't wear Texas orange. No. We're wearing OSU orange.
Yes.
So where's your favorite go-to place to get your orange?
Well, orange, this is probably not going to give you the right answer, but it's kind of, it rotates and
becomes hot. It becomes hot at times.
Different people will carry orange in their fall or spring or whatever line. And so I have to constantly be watching. I'm, always just kind of Googling orange and looking at different things, but I have a lot of people who help me out. So people text me all the time.
Did you see
orange
this?
thing? Yes. We went to a bowl game in Arizona, and I had like 5 people text me, you have to buy this dress. It's orange. It's by the elevator. You have to buy it. And by the 5th or 6th person, I was like, I need to buy this. I need to go see this dress because apparently I need to buy it. So I get a lot of help.
You wear it every day.
Yes,
so it's
I do.
You've got to.
And so sometimes, like I said, J. Crew has had great orange. It's just different places, and it's kind of a constant. You just have to look for it all the time.
And people are sending you shoes all the time, too.
Yes.
And I love your shoes and your style.
Yeah.
That's so fun. And you might have to just book it across campus and, maybe throw out the first pitch or whatever.
That's right. So I shoes are kind of a fun thing for me. So I've always kind of had a thing for shoes, and I will buy shoes and then buy clothes to match them. So
exactly. Like
a good outfit is built on shoes.
That's so true.
So I have a lot of fun with that, and just people saying, connecting me and saying, this is great, or I like to share. I'll share different things on occasion, like, hey, there's great orange at
You could have a whole Instagram on just clothes and where you get your stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I always look to see. Okay, what is Dr. Shrum wearing? Because she always looks so great.
Yeah.
Too cute.
I'm always on the search for orange.
Yeah. That is awesome. Well, I want to make sure I got everything here. Definitely fashion. So what would you say, if you have such a busy, crazy schedule, okay, you're here, there, everywhere. You're at the Capitol earlier today. Now you're here. I'm sure you've got something tonight. What if nothing is on your schedule? What are you doing?
If nothing is on my schedule, I'm probably going to go to Coweta.
Okay, hometown.
To my hometown. We still own a place there.
Okay.
My parents live there and my sister.
Oh, nice.
And it's just a great way for me to get outside. We own land there and just kind of be out in the, quiet and just reflect. And if I don't do that, I'll find a way to get busy.
Yeah.
But it's usually just spending time with my family and going there.
That's great. So your parents still live in the same place that you grew up in?
Not in the same home. They moved, but my my sister and I have 40 acres, and our parents live on it.
Oh,
and so
that's
my
so
husband and I
great.
tell him he affectionately refers to it as the compound, because I told him, I'm like,
We're all gonna be
you
there.
better love that. That's a nice way to describe it. And so we all live out there. Have a really close. My mom's one of 5 girls. And her sisters all live out there.
Wow. So it is a compound.
It is. They don't live on the 40 acres, but they all live very close. And my grandmother, who recently passed away, lived less than a mile from us.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so great to have that.
Yeah, so a very close-knit family.
Now, is there something that you have on your list where you're like, okay, you're so busy, but if you aren't so busy that you want to do, maybe it's like start a podcast or write a book or become a national speaker? Or is there anything like that that you think?
You know, I think at some point in time I do want to write a book.
Yeah.
Really from my perspective of pediatrics and my journey as an adoptive mother. And then into, how you build resilience in kids, through adulthood.
Yes.
And
you have 3 adopted children.
I have 3 adopted children and 3 biological children, and they are, kind of stair-stepped in age. So our oldest is 27, and then we have 2 24-year-olds, and then I call them the triplets. They're not biological.
Yeah.
But they all are around 22, and they, one will turn 23, and one will, at one point in the year, they'll all be the same
22.
age. Yeah. And so
great.
So, they're very, very close in age. And so we adopted the boys when they were 10, 12, and 13. So,
and they're all brothers.
Well, they're not biological.
Okay.
No, they're not biological. Okay. They are all from Ethiopia.
Okay.
And so kind of blending that family and kind of being, early in my career on the pediatric side of caring for adoptive families and just, supporting families to, integrating, kids into the family and becoming, a family unit. I think that's something at some point I want to write about.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so 5 years from now, what's Dr. Kayse Shrum doing?
Well, hopefully I'm still president at Oklahoma State. I have a lot of things that I want to accomplish here. And
maybe I should say 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. Wow. Okay, in 10 years, I might be a grandma by then.
Right.
So I don't know. I keep telling my kids, hold off, because as soon as I have grandkids, I might just decide I want to be a grandma. I don't know.
In Coweta on the land.
Yes, to take care of the kids.
Yeah, that's great.
I benefited from that, personally, but I don't know. I've always really just enjoyed I just try to enjoy what I'm doing and do the best I can at whatever, role I'm playing at the moment. And, if God opens a door, then, I may consider that. But right now I feel, like I'm going to be here at Oklahoma State.
Well, you're doing such a great job.
Well, thank you.
And paving the way for so many, and I thank you for that. Now, where can we find you? The audience, I know your Instagram. Is that probably the best place?
Yes, at Dr. Kayse Shrum on Instagram and on Facebook as well.
Great.
I'm LinkedIn, and that's pretty much.
And seeing you at every event.
Yes.
I mean, baseball, basketball, football.
Yes, we do love and we do enjoy supporting the student athletes, and I always say that it's a great place to really engage with alumni and students, and just really have the opportunity to kind of be a part of the OSU family.
And your husband too. He's like the number one cheerleader, isn't he?
He is. He goes without me.
That's so great.
Yes, and he knows. Every time I might be tired and I'm like, I'm not going to go to that. He always has he knows that he knows if he uses the kids, I'll show up. So he'll be like, you don't
do it for the kids.
The basketball team needs you to be there. This is going to be this win and this, so I'm always like, you're right, I'll go. And I go and I have a great time and I'm energized and, but of course, when all the fun is done, you're like, I don't have the energy to keep up with 20 year-olds.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy and going on to the next thing, but it was such an honor to just get to know a little bit about you and interview you today.
Well, thank you for having me on.
And thank you all for joining the Do It My Way podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Do It My Way podcast. If you like this episode, please remember to share with your friends and make sure to let me know who you'd like me to interview next. We'll see you next time.